Hello, welcome to another episode of the Marriage Underdogs radio show. I'm your host, Felice Matthews, and I'm super excited about our episode today. We have Felice Mathieu, who is an award-winning, renowned relationship coach. He's here to drop some wisdom for us today. I'm going to go ahead and let Matthew introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. Pleasure to be here. Glad to be here. I love seeing what this man is doing here. He's definitely lighting the path for my career. He's always giving me nuggets. So got to give you your flowers, man. Just being real.
Hey, I appreciate it, brother. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Felice Mathieu. I am a Christian marriage coach and communication and marriage expert. And I'm here to serve. I'm really here to serve this area.
Definitely. And I can attest to the fact, man, you've been in the game doing marriage coaching for a while now. And all the listeners, they love to get an idea of what's driven a person into this craft, especially being a male, a Black man. It's not a lot of us in this industry. So share with the listeners what got you into the field, what led you to want to do this amazing work of helping couples.
Well, the short answer is God. But before I get to that, I'll say you're right, man. I was just talking to another professional. He's a Black Christian marriage and family therapist.
Mm-hmm.
And he's pursuing licensure right now. And he was telling me even around him, it's like to find a male MFT, that's rare, right?
Right.
To find a Black male MFT, you even more rare. To find a Christian Black male LFT that's licensed, that's a unicorn. So it's interesting. This journey has been interesting. I just wanted to share that.
Yes.
But it's God. I know some people, may have their preconceived ideas about God or Christianity and all that. So when they hear that, they may just think it's a candid answer, but I'd love to elaborate that. Yeah, it really is God. When I was 12, my mother died of HIV. I never knew my real father. I never even saw a picture of my real father. My stepfather was a great man. I never seen him and my mother argue, not one time. He's a great, calm, hardworking, loving man. And I considered him to be my father, but a few months after my mother died, he was murdered in Haiti. So now that left my granduncle, and he died of diabetes a few months after that. So within 10 to 12 months, I became an orphan of the state. And even to this day, at the age of 39, the only blood relative that I had is my son, and he's 2 years old, and I have him after 13 years of marriage. Praise God, right? But we really thought we couldn't have kids, right? And he gave me a son. I fasted almost 7 days with just water for a son. I'm trying to tell you, what made me break the fast was I seen Jesus holding a chicken wing. And I said, okay, I got to eat something. You know what I'm saying? But 7 days with just water because I really wanted a son. So at that age, the significance of that story is at that age, even at the age of 13, I was 13 by the time my granduncle died. In my mind, if I died, that was the end of my bloodline. I don't think people would ever really understand like the passion and the obsession that I had as a 13-year-old kid.
Now, and I understand what you're talking about with bloodline, because my wife and I and family, we just got back from a trip to South Africa. And when we were over in the motherland, when you meet people, they're not talking about the city they're from, they're giving you their tribe. So as a Black American that doesn't have a connection to their tribe, you're talking about bloodline. I mean, it makes perfect sense. So I definitely can empathize with the fact that you were in a position where if you weren't no longer here anymore, then your whole lineage would leave with you.
That's fascinating. I got to read up on that. They don't say what city they're from. They say what tribe they're from. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. We were at the restaurant and they were like the tribe. Now in South Africa, they have different provinces, but they would talk about the tribe because they would go home and the tribe is connected to the culture, the surnames, all of that's combined together. And
wow, that's cool.
Man, I was like, wow, imagine if I could, I was thinking to myself, imagine if I could identify my tribe. Now I did the DNA ancestry.com and it came back and said Benin and Togo, but I mean, I don't know the authenticity of it, right? And it didn't tell me a tribe, it just said 2 countries. And I just felt that it was so fascinating to see that connection. And what you're talking about when you think of losing father, stepfather, uncle, all these pioneers, all these men in your family, each time you lost one of those, you lost the stories. You lost an understanding of connecting those puzzle pieces that make up who you are.
Exactly.
It's heavy, man.
Exactly. And you know, because you're a good counselor and you're a seasoned counselor. So you grasp that deeper than probably most people that I'll talk to. Right. But people really don't understand the significance of that. And it's true. I spent my whole life trying to figure out who I was, what
Mhm.
I was supposed to do. I felt like God skipped me when it came to giving
Mm.
gifts and talents because I was like, what am I good at? What's my purpose in life? The only thing I knew for sure at age 13 was that I wanted to be married and I wanted to have 6 kids.
Mm.
That was my goal. That was in my mind. I was like, I'm gonna make sure, God gave
Your
me
wife
one
still
and
on playing with the 6 because you got what, one
she's
down,
not.
5
She's
more
not.
to go.
She's not on plan, and I'm not on plan either because medically it's wiser not to try to have two. But that's what I desired, and he gave me a son. His name is Christian. Boy is so bright, and the best blessing God could have gave me was to give me an intelligent, bright kid, and the second one is to have him know the Lord. So I'm praying for that too.
Yeah,
But
and
at age
also
13,
the blessing too is that he has a father. Like he
absolutely.
gets the gift that you didn't have. He has a father and a mother, and I wanted to just continue to segue into like making that decision to say, hey, I'm going to devote my life to a profession that involves helping other couples either transition into marriage, stay married. Talk about that for a second. Where were you at? What was the day that decision was made where you said, yes, this is what I'm going to do in my life?
You know how that happened later than you would think. That only happened a few years ago,
Okay.
right? Even though I've been doing the same work that I'm doing on social media now, interviewing people, helping the community by giving little nuggets. I've been doing that since age 13. It wasn't social media back then. Back then, we used to have notebooks and you write questions on a notebook and you
Right.
pass it around school and
Right.
everybody writes there. That's what I was doing. I was that
Right.
guy,
Yeah, I know about
right?
that.
Yeah, you remember that? Right. So I
Yeah.
was that guy. You have big notebooks. What's better, love or lust? All these
Little
questions and
check boxes.
yeah, people would take off. It took off. I used to have piles of notebooks. So I became the relationship guy. People made me that. What's
Mm,
ironic about that? I was often the one not in a relationship.
mm.
So people around me was in a relationship 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and I was over here single. Because when you care about love and relationship that much, it gives a sense of desperation to women, and
Right.
that's not attractive,
So
right?
talk to the guys though, right? Because I have that same similarity. When you think about being young as a man, a lot of young men are given this false narrative that we're supposed to conquer and sow our oats and just see how many women we can be with. But it doesn't sound like that was your journey. Talk about that.
No, it wasn't my journey. I grew up around that. I grew up around gang members, pimps, drug dealers, big time drug dealers. I mean, SWAT teams coming in the house.
Hmm.
I grew up around killers. I grew up around the environment. So it's either you become that or you say you never want to be that. So I'm not
Now
perfect.
that was it right there. You said you
Right,
either become it or you make a choice to never be that. And it sounds like you
right.
made the choice to be something different. And that something different looked like helping people have healthy and happy families and marriages and relationships.
It didn't start there. It didn't start there. What started was consuming all this information. You remember the book called Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus?
I do. I do remember
I
that.
was the 13-year-old kid carrying that book around. So it started with the obsession, movies, articles, biographies. I worked at jobs, like for instance, I worked at Publix and I would push carts outside of the customers, and it'd be married couples, doctors, lawyers. I lived in a rich neighborhood, but we lived in a poor house, but it was like a rich environment, zip code or
The
whatever,
neighborhood
right?
before the poorhouse.
Right. So I would ask them all these questions. So I compiled the data, and that I think that's what God used to kind of give me a depth in scripture. And then,
Curiosity.
right, exactly, right. And then I became that go-to guy. Hey, Felice, what do you think about this? I would hold panel discussions with girls and boys in the house. Like, I became that guy. They made me that guy.
Hmm.
And then years later, I actually wanted to do spoken word poetry.
Okay.
That's what I started off to. And I didn't realize until I started the journey to become a marriage and family therapy that the reason my spoken word poetry took off so much is because I was talking about relationships with a perspective that a lot of people could relate to. And
Mm.
what I did was study scripture, or I would compile the data that I had, and I just shared my observations in poetry. One of the most like life-changing moments for me, this poem right here was seen on Instagram, and I had a chance to be in Kobe Bryant's celebrity event.
Mm.
The year that he died, I had that chance. Two
Wow.
representatives from Kobe Bryant's camp reached out to me. They didn't know they were reaching out to me. They say, "Hey, I got this guy. Hey, I got this guy. Oh, it's the same guy."
Mm.
Fortunately, I couldn't do it, but it led to it came from that. And the poem was, "I see men that want to be men, but these men are just want to be men that pretend to be men.
Mm.
So please, men, at ease, men. Being the man doesn't consist of consistent plans of deceiving women and releasing semen. I see men that get chills from children. Instead of taking the time to instill the skills of wisdom in them, they let paper bills raise them, yet
Mm.
expect children to praise them. Being
Mm.
a father is just a phrase to them. They're like, why bother? It's just a phase to them. In this predicament, it's safe to predict, men, that dollars don't make sense, men, since it's just senseless. I see women who woo men, try to rule men. See, they meet a Tarzan man and try to tame him, rearrange him. See, their aim is to change him, like colors on leaves that hang on trees going through seasons. But see, men, once we change men, that's when we become lame to them. Fellows wonder why. Well, the truth is underlined. It's a shame, but it's no lie. It's just a game to them. So I took those observations and I put it in the poetry, and I was on that path,
Yeah,
right?
man, hey, I appreciate you sharing that too, man. And then what I love about it was we was in just midst of conversation and you just busted out like, damn, got into it. It was clean, smooth. Love it, man. The cadence, everything. And that's your ability to connect organically. And I think that's what pulls people into your coaching because they know you're being yourself. And that's huge. Now, there are a lot of people listening to our show who may not have everything where they want it to be right now in their marriage. They could be going through a season of desperation. I call it that desert season. And what are a couple tips, right? Like if you could pull out 2 or 3 tips, your fundamental cornerstone tips that you counsel or coach with, talk about that for a second to help these listeners out.
I'll give you one. I'll give you one that's going to transform the lives of marriages if you really understand the depth of
Let's
this.
go. Let's go. We
Just one,
ready. Let's
just one.
go. Let's get it.
And it comes from Mark 10:8, so that you not two, no longer two, but one flesh.
Mm.
That's the key to effective communication. Communication. It's learning how to merge those worlds. What often happens is someone has a view of the world. Let's call it the man. He has a view in the world. And his view of the world, it's right, it's correct. If you disagree, you're wrong, and you should actually do this. A woman has a view of the world. Let's call this woman the wife. She feels like it should be this way, should be done this way. If you love me, you'll do this. So what ends up happening is instead of trying to merge those views so that you're no longer two and you're one flesh, there's a tug of war. You do it this way, you do it my way. No, you do it my way. How about our way? Because if you study scripture, there's a whole new entity, right? You have oxygen, then you have what? Hydrogen. They come together, they don't lose their properties, but they form a completely different substance. A lot of problems in marriage happen because people are trying to control each other instead of compromise.
Mm. So talk about that for a second, because in the work that we do, you said control or compromise versus control. And compromise looks like coming together, but control could be what, more someone winning and someone losing? Break those down for us for a second.
Yeah, control has to do with what you said. That was a great way to say it. But control also has a disregard with the other person's worldview.
Mm.
I'm not caring about that. You know, right? What I care about now, I put do not disturb. I don't know why I'm getting this call. I put do not disturb. I gotta figure that out with Apple. But anyways, so control has to do with forget your worldview, forget what you think, forget what you thought, forget what you experienced, forget how you're feeling. I want what I want. What I want is right, and you should give it to me if you love me, if you care about me.
Mm.
That's control. Compromise is, let's give a very practical, highly controversial topic: sex and marriage.
Okay. Yep.
The man you may have a man who wants it frequently, 3, 4, 5 times a week. Okay. Is it being unfair that he wants it that? Well, that's based on the couple, right? You have a woman that says once or twice is fine. And when we have sex, I want it to be done this way. What does control look like? The woman refraining from sex unless the guy approaches it a certain way. Women refraining from sex frequency because of X, Y, and Z. And there are valid reasons, but a lot of times it's a control factor. If you do this, then you can have this for me. Now, the man would do the same thing, right? If I'm not getting this type of frequency, I'll withhold affection, I'll withhold romantic dates, I'll withhold all this stuff. This is the control factor. You're going to do it my way. I don't care how you're going through it. I don't care how you're feeling. How does compromise look? Some seasons, it could be more frequent than others. Some seasons, he has to understand it's not going to be like that. Her To her side, romance involves more than just penetration. How you talk to her throughout the day, how you support her, how you're there for her. That's her side. That's often missing from the man because all he's thinking about is his erection, probably his release, probably, or the act of penetration. So instead of this tug of war, how about you find a way to merge those views so that it's not a tug of war, it's a compromise. It's not a perfect compromise. Keep in mind, you're coming from two different worlds.
Right.
Two imperfect people are trying to live together. There's going to be imperfections, but at least that sets more a better course than two people trying to say my way is automatically right, and if you disagree, you're automatically wrong because this is my view of the world, and you should give it to me if you care about me.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you broke that down, compromise versus control, because the main takeaway I'm hearing is that you can want what you want, but the goal when you look at a relationship, because it is a shared space, it's not just what you want, it's not just what your partner wants, it's what's right for the shared space. So you're bringing all of what you want, but you're creating, like you said with the H2O analogy, a whole nother type of compound. And that's a new system, a new entity in itself. And it sounds like the control is when we step outside of the union and we're just still trying to be I or me versus we and us.
Yeah, I told you this before. I gotta tell you again. You are like a emperor when it comes to summarizing. And for real, I don't have that gift. I really don't. But yeah, that was great. I confirm and agree and concur with everything you just said.
I'm just putting down what I'm just picking up what you're putting down. So now I want to segue, because when you think about the show Marriage Underdogs, right? In the Marriage Underdogs brain, it's based off about 10 different characteristics which lead couples to have a higher probability of divorce. And one of those characteristics of probability is cultural differences. And I want to take a moment for you to share about your experience with cultural differences within marriage.
Well, I'm Haitian American. My wife is St. Lucian American. So I guess we're in an interracial relationship, right? Even though we're from Caribbean islands.
Absolutely. Right? And side note, you guys know I know Felice, so clearly that question was intentional. Keep going. Because you are what we consider a marriage underdog as well. All the people listening know my wife and I are. We fit 7 out of 10. So just to put that disclaimer out there, I get it. So marriage underdog to marriage underdog.
Right. So I appreciate that. The template that I shared earlier, it goes deep. I don't say that just to sound cool or to have a MC Hammer hit that blows me up, or like this. It really goes deep. You can apply it to anything.
Right.
One person has a view of the world from this cultural perspective, and their view of the world. This is how you do it. This is how it's done. This is how it's always been done. This is what's accepted. This is what's not accepted. That's fine if you're by yourself or you're in your own culture, but you're with someone else that you're in relationship with. So no longer two, but one flesh. So that means there's going to have to be some type of integration from both cultures. If it's not, if you do the opposite, then you fall back into, like you perfectly said, outside of the union. You're thinking about you. You're not thinking about us, right? For instance, in my wife's culture, they're not really big on rice, right? They're more ground provisions, what people in America call vegetables, sweet potato, the yams, the all those different types of things. That's
Right.
more their thing, right? You have that. Maybe you have a little rice, you have beans, you have 4 or 5 items on the plate. That's their culture. It seems like something so significant, and it can be, right? But that's just one difference that I'm pulling from the culture. In Haitian culture, rice is the side. That's what it is. You got rice for breakfast, you got rice for lunch, you got rice for dinner. It wasn't until I was married that I realized I really don't know how to make sides. I know how to cook, but I realized I really don't know how to make sides because
They're gonna be
our
rice.
culture is rice. Babe, what are you gonna have for a side? What you mean? I made some red beans and rice. What you talking about? That's a side. Like, but so something like that. It's not about, well, this is the right way to do it. You have all these vegetables here, and whatever we want to be right in, we're going to pull reasons to be right.
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 Oh yeah,
We're
we're
going to
going to
pull. So,
justify ourselves easily, right? We're going to defend
right.
our position. And to your point, I love the fact that you're discussing what marriage from the fabric of commitment is, right? Because you're committing to be one flesh. You're committing to compromise. You're committing to pull both of your needs together to create one collective need. And that's the process. That's the choice of marriage, to make the commitment. And the couples that may be listening might be struggling with that commitment. So what are things they can do, or how can they guide their conversations toward becoming we and away from just I?
The first practical step that I'm sure you'll resonate with, especially in our profession, do not judge a person's world first. Seek to understand first.
Seek
Seek
to
to understand
understand
it.
before seeking to be understood.
Yeah, just seek to understand, right? That's it. It sounds so simple, and we often put in our minds that like solutions to problems have to be so complicated.
Mhm.
No, who says people are complicated? Solutions are often not complicated. It's really as simple as, how does this person view the world when it comes to this topic, and understand it. Just understand it. It often involves a story from their childhood that molded
Mhm.
them. If you're familiar with the attachment theory, it's
Yeah.
that's really relevant, right? Your story molds you and sets the pattern for all your relationships, right? Sometimes it's a bad experience, a pain that they never want to experience again from an
Mhm.
old girlfriend. But whatever that reason is, seek to understand it. Why do you feel this way? What would make you not feel this way? Okay, well, I feel differently. How can we? That's the
And,
first step. Is just not judging it.
and I'm glad you brought that step of understanding, because what I find, especially for men in particular, a lot of men get confused because we may feel like taking the time to understand is also providing consent. Just
Mhm.
because you understand the behavior, it doesn't mean you're consenting to that behavior.
Right.
And that's where we have to, men and women, we have to fall back and acknowledge understanding or listening doesn't always equal consent. It's the ability to collect more data, but through that data collection process, through that empathizing process, you're connecting with your partner. You're actually softening your partner up. I use in my therapy the verbiage of lubricating, right? You're lubricating your message to be better received or penetrated through, because you're allowing time for your partner to be understood first. And it's a sequential dance, right? We do a lot of work in therapy. I'm sure you're aware of Sue Johnson. She wrote the book Hold Me
Mhm.
Tight, which is indicative to the
Emotional EFT.
emotional focus therapy, EFT. And it's about steps, right? So if you can take the time to understand, like you're saying, take the time to listen to your partner, you're loosening up the ability, you're creating a better chance for compromise.
Absolutely, sir.
Nice,
Absolutely.
nice. Definitely. So I know we're approaching our time, and I just like to always make sure every guest has an opportunity to share about either current or future projects, and provide ways that the listeners can get in contact with you to continue this dialogue if they want to reach out or solicit your services for coaching, or to follow you on social. So just go ahead and give us all those tidbits so we can keep in contact with you and what new projects you got coming down the pipeline.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. Well, right now, our main focus, my wife and I, and partners that we meet along the way, is to grow our 501c3 nonprofit. It's called Marriage Sharing, And the whole goal behind that is to unite Christian professionals that specialize in different areas to serve in the mission to help whole families stay whole. We have about 9,000 followers on our Instagram, marriage sharing. And I want people to really check out marriagesharing.com. See what we're building there. See the community we're building there, and the resources we're building there. And if you feel spiritually led to donate and support the mission of keeping whole families whole, you can do that at marriagesharing.org.
That's marriagesharing.com
Yep, exactly how
and
it's spelled.
marriagesharing.org. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Man, like always, it's a pleasure to have you and speak with you. And I'm so thankful for the work you're doing to keep families whole, to keep families together. Brother, continue to be a blessing. And we hope to have you back. For those that are listening, you've just got done listening to episode Marriage Underdog Radio Show. I'm your host once again, Felice Mathieu, and we look forward to you guys liking the episode, sharing the episode, and you can always follow us at chrisamatthews.com as well. Until the next show.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, brother. Thanks for being here.